In this episode, I want to share some insights from a small but powerful book called Yoga Vasishta Sara, often translated as the essence of Yoga Vasishta. It is an ancient dialogue that keeps pointing again and again to one simple insight. The gap we feel between me and the world is not really there, it is a habit of perception. Take a moment and notice how you usually feel yourself. It often feels like you are sitting somewhere behind your eyes, looking out at a world full of objects, people, situations. There is a quiet assumption that there are two sides to every moment. On one side, the one who sees. On the other side, what is seen. The book starts by questioning that assumption in a very radical way. It says that both sides of the experience are made of the same stuff, that there is only experiencing, not two separate things called experiencer and experienced. One of the images in the book is very simple. Imagine a pot sitting in open space. While the pot is intact, it feels as if there is space inside and space outside. When the pot breaks, you cannot even say which was which. There was never a real line in the space itself. There was only a shape that made it look like inside and outside were different. In the same way, our body and mind are like that pot. They give the impression that there is a world out there and a me in here. The seeing, the seen, the body, the room, all of that is already one continuous field. The sense of a border is drawn later by thought. Another very old image from the same text talks about seeing a rope in dim light and mistaking it for a snake. In the moment of fear, the snake feels completely real. Your heart races, your muscles tense. Then you bring a light closer and recognize the rope. The snake is gone, but you do not have to push it away. You simply see what was always there. The suggestion is that the split between subject and object is like that. Life feels like a struggle between me and all this, only because our mind is reading the scene in a certain way. When the reading shifts, nothing in the actual experience needs to disappear. The room is still the room, the body is still the body. Yet the sense of me versus world loses its grip. The book goes even further and compares our normal waking life to a dream. In a dream, you play the role of a person who moves through a world. You talk to others, you run, you hide, you celebrate. In the dream, everything looks outside of you. When you wake up, you realize that the me in the dream and the world of the dream were made of the same thing. They were both movements in the dreaming mind. The text invites us to consider that the same might be true right now. The person you feel yourself to be and the world you seem to live in may not be two different substances. They might be two sides of one living display. There is also a mirror image that I love. Picture a calm lake. Trees on the shore are reflected perfectly in the water. For someone staring at the surface, all those reflections look like separate things in a separate place. Yet every single image is only one thing. It is water shaping itself into pictures. In the same way, every color, every sound, every sensation, even the feeling, I am the one who is aware, appears in one clear presence. You could call that presence awareness or simply this knowing. Whatever name you give it, there are not two different materials, one for the observer and one for the observed. It is one field taking on many shapes. Here's a way to explore this directly. Right now, notice a simple sound, maybe the hum in your room or my voice. Notice also a body sensation, like the feeling of your hands. And then notice the thought, I am the one who is hearing and feeling this. We usually assume that the sound and the body are out there, and the thought I is in here. But if you look very closely, all three appear in exactly the same way. All of them are experiences happening in the same open space of knowing. You never step outside that openness to find a separate observer looking in. The observer is also a movement inside it. The book says something very straightforward about this. It says that what exists is this shining presence, and that the whole sense of knower and known is something the mind adds as a story. It does not mean the world is fake. It means the world is not made of dead stuff that stands apart from the knowing of it. The seeing and what is seen are one event, like fire and its light. You never get light on one side and a different thing called fire somewhere else. In the same way, you never actually find a separate subject on one side and separate objects on the other. There is just this one seamless showing up. When this is not seen, life feels like a constant negotiation. I am here, the world is there, and I must defend my side. The ancient text describes how this creates fear, craving, and a sense of heaviness. Everything becomes personal. Someone's words are not just sounds, they are threats or validations of me. A task is not just a task, it becomes a statement about my worth. The more tightly we hold the idea of a separate subject, the more the world turns into an opponent or a judge. When the insight of non-separation starts to sink in, something very simple softens. You still feel sensations. You still meet people. You still have to answer emails and pay bills. Yet there is less of a sense that all of this is happening to a fragile center that must be protected. Instead, life starts to feel like different waves in one ocean. The body is a wave, the tree is a wave, the person in front of you is a wave, the emotion passing through is another wave. The ocean never fights its own shapes. You can see this even in very ordinary moments. You are walking and looking at the sky. For a second, you forget yourself. There is just sky and walking. Afterwards, you remember, I was enjoying the sky. But in the actual moment of enjoyment, there was no strong subject-object split. There was only a single living experience. What this teaching does is to highlight that those brief moments are actually closer to the truth than our constant self-talk. The relaxed, simple seeing is not a special state. It is the default. The me versus world feeling is the add-on. Another key point from the book is that this recognition does not depend on changing the content of experience. You do not need to stop thoughts or escape from the body or arrange a perfect environment. The text keeps saying that the same presence shines in joy and in pain, in clarity and in confusion, in activity and in rest. The idea that there is a separate subject comes and goes. The raw fact of knowing, of being aware, does not come and go. Seeing this gives a strange kind of freedom inside the messiness of daily life. So how do we invite this shift without turning it into another project for the separate self to complete? One simple way is to play with questions, not as philosophy, but as gentle pointers. When you look at an object, ask yourself quietly, where exactly is the line between the one looking and what is looked at? Try to find it, not with thoughts, but with attention. When you feel an emotion, instead of saying, I am feeling this, stay with the pure sensation and notice that it appears in the same open field as the thought, I do not like this. The book encourages this kind of simple, direct inquiry again and again. Over time, this changes the flavor of living. You may still say I and you and world. Language does not have to change. What changes is the felt meaning behind those words. I no longer points to a small, separate thing under attack from reality. It points to the same open presence that appears as all beings and all things. World no longer means a cold, external machine. It becomes the play of that presence. Relationship no longer means two sealed containers bouncing off each other. It becomes one life speaking to itself in different voices. The beauty of Yoga Vasishta Sara is that it does not ask you to adopt a complicated system. It uses simple images and everyday examples to show something that is already true. The division between subject and object, between me and this, has never been more than a way of talking. The lived reality is one seamless happening that includes both sides at once. You do not have to create that unity. You only have to stop insisting on the separation. So as you go through your day after this episode, you can play with this. When you look at your hand, at a screen, at another person, notice that there is not really a gap to be bridged. There is just this one living field showing up as seeing and seen together. In that recognition, even for a moment, the ancient teaching in this little book is alive right here.